Oh,
You ready?
agenda notes.
I'd like to call the December Tuesday, April 2nd. I'm in Christmas mode. We're getting our pictures taken earlier. Everyone's happy. I'd like to call the Tuesday, April 2nd, 2019 Oldsmar City Council meeting to order. Our city attorney will lead us in the invocation and our Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise.
Heavenly Father, we meet to serve our community, to use our resources wisely and well, to represent all members of our community fairly, and to make decisions that promote the common good. We recognize the responsibility to the past and the future, as well as the rights and needs of both the individual and our community. As trusted servants, we seek blessings on our deliberations and on our efforts here today. This we pray.
Amen.
Yeah.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item on the agenda is our Citizens Open Forum. We do have one public hearing tonight. It's item number 1 under the CRA. So I'd ask if you wish to speak to that item, you wait till we arrive to it on the agenda. Is there anybody on this side of the room? We do have a few rules. You have 5 minutes. We ask that you give your name and your address. Also, please include your city. We don't want to assume that you live in Oldsmar. And that's it. Anybody on this side? Tony.
Good evening. My name is Tony Gross, 711 Santonleaf Avenue, Oldsmar.
Craig Gross at the same residence
Ooh,
for 44 years.
wow.
Like that?
I like that.
We wanted to let you know about an upcoming event called Tribute to the Troops. And thanks to the kindness and help of Linda Norris, who I called up in a panic because we needed a park location. And we had done the first Tribute to the Troops in 2017 at the Veterans Memorial Park here, and it was a beautiful success. And so through a change of events, I was asked if there was a possibility we could have you get use of the park. And I called up Linda, and thanks to Linda and Al and Felicia, who helped expedite this permits and everything, we will be doing the Tribute to the Troops, third annual Tribute to the Troops stop and visitation at the park, Saturday, April the 13th, beginning at 11:30 and going till 1:30. And quickly what it is, it's about 50 motorcyclists who come down from Minnesota, and 6 families of the fallen from throughout the Pinellas County area are honored. Generally, the motorcyclists go to their homes, but because of HOA problems and things like that, one of the families couldn't do it. So we were asked if we could host a presentation, plaque presentation, and a family visit at our beautiful park here. So we do want to thank you for your support for us to be able to do it again. We'd like for all of you to come out to the park Saturday, April the 13th at 11:30 when the motorcyclists arrive, coming down Lafayette Boulevard and parking there. And country music recording artist Rocky Lynn, who is the founder and president of Tribute to the Troops, will be making a beautiful fallen soldiers plaque presentation to 2 families there. So rain or shine, we'll be there. Bring lawn chairs, and please come out.
Outstanding.
Any questions?
So we have a biker gang coming to Oldsmar, huh?
Yeah.
Yes.
Should be
It's
fun.
a family-oriented biker
I'm
gang.
joking. I'm joking.
Also, well, the timing is 11:30 to 12:30, and I forgot to ask Al, I was supposed to ask him today if we could have an extra half hour, because we want to give enough time for the bikers, the motorcyclists to park and everything else. So she said 11:30 to 1:30. It's really going to be like 11:30 to maybe 1.
I guess so.
Did you see how she just did that?
Yeah.
Just in the public eye. And
Well,
let's see what kind of person Al is. What do you think, Al? Will you allow it?
Okay.
So, and we don't want people to think that it's a 2-hour event and come late and everything else. We want people to be there at 11:30 because it's really going to be 11:30 to greet the people from that are going to be on the motorcycles are actually all flying in from Minnesota, renting motorcycles,
wow.
staying in hotels. So it's a big deal. I mean, they're paying all that with their own money. It's not funded, so it's pretty cool.
Well, another thing, people will ask who's Rocky Lynn. He is a major country western guitar player that is sought out in the industry to play on tapes and all that kind of stuff. But he was discarded by his mom when he was a baby. Ended up being brought up in a boys' home in North Carolina, joined the Army, became a Ranger, was a Ranger for 8 years, and just recently did his DNA test. He had no idea if he could ever find his dad. Found out that his dad lived right down the street from him and was a country western guitarist. Okay, so you're gonna wanna meet this guy. He's got an extraordinary testimony, but also he's got a photogenic mind. When he does a presentation on all 6 of these soldiers who were killed in action, he will tell you every detail of their lives. It takes him about a half an hour for each family, and he doesn't read from notes.
Wow.
And he doesn't miss a lick. So it's going to be an epic moment for our city, and we want as many people to come out as possible.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on this side? Amanda? All right, it's homework time, and I've already confessed that I do not have mine done.
I told her to.
Oh, that's not fair.
Dog ate my homework. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, don't worry. There'll be the same challenge today, actually. My name's Amanda, 135 East Lake Club Drive. I love how my address is a poem, by the way. So I'm the Poet Laureate of Oldsmar, for those of you who don't know. And I attend the city council meetings the first of each month. And I'm at about every other one, I like to bring a challenge, more or less. And that challenge is to write a poem about a certain prompt, which I will present later. So as I was preparing tonight's poem, I was thinking about legacies and stories and how essentially the City Council of Oldsmar is essentially the story of the city. This is where Oldsmar's story starts. And it got me back to thinking about the image of cavemen a long, long time ago sharing stories
I
around a
can
fire.
understand the connection right there.
Oh no, that's not what I meant.
No.
Oh dear.
Please, no. I can't wait to hear the poem.
Oh no, my metaphor's failing. Okay. Well, anyway, I was thinking about telling stories around a campfire across a night sky. So with those images in mind, I present to you my poem, Stars Upon Caverns. From cavern walls to council halls, from campfires to podiums, from staffs to gavels, and yet stories are forever told to the breeze and carried to the constellations in the ether. There are new stars this night. New stars, get it? New City Council?
Great.
And I also, the challenge. I almost skipped over the challenge. So I'm going to present the same challenge that I gave last month. Your challenge is to go to some place in Oldsmar where you've never been before and write a poem about it.
So Katie
If
did.
I have one ready, should I read it tonight or save it for next time?
Read it.
I was here sitting out there with you.
That's right, yeah.
Last time when you gave the challenge to
Wow.
the prior council.
Wow, overachiever over there.
You are an overachiever. You sat in the front row.
Could be in trouble.
I was going to make a
can see
joke
it
that now we have cave women, but that's like too advanced.
Well, why don't you read it tonight? I'd love to hear it.
So I experienced something I had obviously never experienced before, which was our beautiful parade for Oldsmar Days last weekend. So it's a short haiku. Cheerful Aurora, suddenly proud Oldsmar throws above the parade.
That was good.
Wonderful event, and I'm sure we'll hear more about it from Jerry.
Well, thank you for sharing that, and you're more than welcome to write another poem.
Oh, of course.
And Amanda, see, now I've got a lot more new experiences over the last 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
So it should be really good.
Perfect.
That's the goal.
So that means lots of poems, right?
Lots of poems, lots of words.
Perfect. Lots
Thank
of
you.
words. Thank you. And I also wanted to say one more thing. On the first and third Saturdays of each month, I'm now going to be hosting Project Poetry. These are going to be meetings and workshops at the Oldsmar Library. And I'll be discussing things like, well, how to workshop poems, how to submit poems to poetry journals, and just a way for the citizens of Oldsmar to start or continue writing poetry. So,
Excellent.
yep, thank you.
Thank
When
you.
does our poem due, our assignment due?
The first city council meeting of next month.
Got it.
2 meetings ago.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Amanda.
Jerry.
Jerry Cuss, number 10 Bay Chamber of Commerce, and I didn't know this was, I forgot it was poem month, but I got a poem I wrote many, many years ago on bureaucracy. Okay? You know what bureaucracy is?
What?
Bureaucracy?
yeah.
Okay. The road is straight. The weather is clear. The objective's in sight. The target is near. But nevertheless, you can't get there from here.
Really good,
That was good. That deserves some applause.
I have another one on aging that I can't repeat in this room, but
All right, moving on to your report.
I can tell you that yesterday. But yeah, to follow up, I'd like to thank the city council, the city staff, the city officials for all the support for Oldsmar Days, and obviously the weather was spectacular. The crowds were spectacular. It was the largest Oldsmar Days we have ever had.
Wow.
So it's the best one in history. That's 58, and that was the largest one we ever had. Going to the parade, it was a spectacular parade.
Yeah.
I have a picture. I have to get it off my phone that I took together down at the park. We had Tom Rowe, who is Ari Old's grandson, driving his original 1918 Rio. We also had Debbie Stevens, who is Ari Old's great-granddaughter. We had the president of the Olds Club of America come in from St. Louis, and the president of the Antique Olds Club of America, who came in from Phoenix. Wow. So I got four of them together in one picture that we'll be posting. So that's you're not going to get those four together very often.
Yeah.
But thank you all for everything you did, and great Oldsmar Days, and hope we made the city proud.
Very much so. Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.
Thank you. What a terrific event, huh?
Absolutely.
Anybody else on this side? On this side? Dave.
Dave Tilkey, 505 Arlington Avenue East. Congratulations, Mayor. Welcome back, Councilmember Norris, and welcome, Councilmember Gannon.
Thank you.
Congratulations to all of you. You know, all the celebrations are over and the congratulations are over, so now it's time to go to work. And
But Dave's here.
and I don't have a poem. You know, I'm sure each and every one of you have some priority you think is something important for the city. And if you ask the residents that are here tonight, you know, maybe there's, I don't know, 40 tonight, you probably get 40 different answers as to what their priorities are for the city as we go to move to the future. So tonight I'm going to tell you mine. And it has to do with all that's going on with the town center. We got another, you know, development going to be discussed tonight. You got another one, your work sessioning on Thursday. You know, there's a lot happening, but one of the things that we need to pay attention to is our existing city, our existing structures. And, you know, as developers or prospective investors drive through the community, they're going to be looking around to see, well, what is here now? You know, what am I buying into? And I'm speaking about code enforcement. As you all know, the Code Enforcement Board meetings get canceled on a regular basis. And that's not a bad thing. That's actually usually a sign that code enforcement is working, you know, that people are being cited or being told about something, and they're coming into compliance without having to come before the board. So canceling those meetings is not a bad thing. However, it could be the flip side. There's a flip side to that coin in that possibly we're not citing enough people, we're not looking hard enough, And I don't know that we need to look very hard. I do a lot of running and biking, and you know, I've been here 26 years now. And just driving down St. Pete Drive, I could see a 30-foot box trailer in somebody's backyard that's been there. I think it's been there as long as I've been in Oldsmar, visible right from St. Pete Drive. There's vehicles in yards full of junk in the back with a flat tire that haven't moved in 4 months. There's lots where buildings were demolished. The silt fence is still there. A year, 2 years later, lots are overgrown. But there's also structures and homes that people are putting things in the backyard and having bonfires visible from St. Pete Drive again. There's just so many things that we should look at a little bit harder. We need to make sure that we don't allow what we have to deteriorate to the point that everything in town becomes a tear down and let's start over again. You know, I think code enforcement is good for everybody. It protects all of our property values, and it's something that should be looked at, and hopefully somebody will look at that as a priority for the upcoming year. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else on this side of the room? Becky?
Becky Afonso, 174B East State Street, in the most awesome city ever, Oldsmar. Good evening, Mayor, Council. I noticed this is going to be a little bit of a tie-in to number 7. Just wanted to let everybody know out there that the Friends of the Library is doing a little bit of a social media engagement during National Library Week, which starts Sunday. And we're asking everybody to bring your smartphones and check in at the library and then check out something awesome. So we're looking forward to seeing how many check-ins we get during the week. I took a count at 6 p.m. and there are 1,466 current check-ins. So let's see what number we can get to by the end of National Library Week. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Becky.
Cool. Thank you.
Do we have anybody else? Nobody else I see. Oh, I'm sorry, Jason.
Good evening, everyone. Jason Schwab, your current interim fire chief. Just want to take a moment to let you guys know that May 11th marks the 10th annual Fire Ops 101. So wanted to extend that invitation. There's one member that hasn't been before, so just to give you a little background, it's, you know, a day you can come out and practice being a firefighter, see all the challenges and opportunities that go along with that. So we would love to have you out there. I'll send you guys some information on it and just let me know if you're interested. And
Tell her what time
Be
it's
there.
Yeah, tell them what time it starts.
What time?
registration is at 7 a.m.
I'm at 5, you
Yeah, see?
guys.
Two small kids, that's nothing.
Yeah, I have 2 little kids. That's nothing. That's the time I leave the house.
I'll tell you what, everybody who has done it, and it
Yeah,
is
I know.
a
I've seen
terrific
pictures.
experience.
Bruce.
Yeah.
It really gives you a good firsthand look at what our first responders contend with.
How incredibly
And,
difficult it is, I'm sure.
You know, and from another perspective, this is one of the things, and I think Gabby and Ann and I went together in that one group, but there's some perspective it gives you, like, for example, the goggles.
imager?
What is it?
Oh, the thermal imager?
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. You know, when you go into a room filled with smoke and they say, find the body in there, and that's all you've got. It makes you, while it's an eye-opener in terms of what our people can possibly deal with, I take away from it and say, when that item comes up in the capital improvements budget, or, you know, I understand what it is and the importance of it being top grade. Right? So it's not just a matter of experiencing it, which I think is really cool. It also has to do with the impact of how we make some financial decisions up here. So it was a great event, and nobody got hurt.
I'm excited.
Yeah, my favorite part was cutting the car in half.
Yeah, and that was.
I wanted to do during Citizens Academy.
Yeah.
I wanted to do that. Well, actually, I wanted to be in the car that they were cutting open, and they said.
Dan was like a kid with a new toy with those tools. He really did enjoy that a lot.
Yeah.
And you know,
Scared
just
me when
because
she got it.
just because you guys have been before doesn't mean you can't come again. It's a good, what's a better team building exercise and
Do you like it?
Putting
getting
out
in bunker
fires.
gear and going to a superheated building. So
I have a question.
Yes.
Are we gonna have the same problem NASA had with girl suits?
with girl suits, we fitted you pretty well last time,
Yeah, but we
right?
got 3 girls now.
Yeah,
Ladies,
we will
have
find
3
gear
ladies.
for you.
Female members.
Female members.
We do have female firefighters,
Wants to know
so
what
we will
color
find you some gear.
That's true.
Abby said we wanna know what color options you have.
Unfortunately, that's limited. But,
All right.
all right, so we
Thanks,
appreciate
Jason.
it.
Thank you,
We'll get some
sir. Do
information.
we have anybody else? Seeing none, we're going to move on to the community minute. Before we do, I'm going to turn this over to our city clerk. But before they do, there's something I think that's really cool that happened this past Friday. Some of you may already know this, but it's happened where one of our local BMX riders who's trained here and kind of came through the whole process on Friday, Spencer Cole, won title for Junior Men's National Champion at the BMX National Race up in South Carolina. And so for the next year, they wear the Stars and Stripes because they are the national champion for the junior, men's junior league. Came from us, Oldsmar, one of our own, not to mention that Shelley Cole works in our leisure services department. So it's a double win. So they're not here, but I think they deserve a round of applause. Very exciting. Finally, all right, city clerk.
Absolutely. Mayor's Water Conservation Challenge is going on all throughout the month of April. You go to mywaterpledge.com, make a 4-step pledge, and get Oldsmar closer to the win. So the town can win something, but you could also, because some winners will get $5,000 in paid utilities.
And I think you have to do it now. Like
do it now.
When the mayor did it, it wasn't April yet.
No.
So it didn't count, so I have to go do it again.
You do it.
You live and learn.
Yeah, you can do it, yeah.
Easter egg hunt is coming up on Saturday, April 6th at Arields Park, 9 a.m. sharp. That's a free event, but it's over within 1 minute and 45 seconds. They just zero in on those eggs and they're gone. So definitely 9 o'clock sharp. The charity roast honoring former Mayor Doug Beavis is coming up April 10th at 7:30 in the morning at Nielsen. Tickets are $25, and all proceeds will go to the Holiday Sharing Fund. The Upper Tampa Bay Chamber of Commerce is selling them. The annual Oldsmar Cup race is coming up on April 7th. That's free admission to residents at Tampa Bay Downs. Gates open at 11 o'clock. We won't know the time of the race yet until the week before when they go through their processes and pick the race time. But anyone is welcome to join for the photo in the winner's circle. And that's really quite something to be down there. Like I said before, you're all winners, so April 7th. Relay for Life is April 12th, 6 to midnight, Oldsmar Sports Complex. It's a free celebration and just a great time, great community fun. So I encourage everybody to go out there if you can. And our recycling day is coming up. It's April 19th, 8 to noon. And the east parking lot at City Hall. So this is also free, electronics, medications, but the document shredding is limited to 5 boxes. So come by and give us your junk and we'll take care of it safely. And also, that was a lot of information, so you can always contact me at any time. And I also have the sheets printed out on the back there, and that's your community minute.
Thank you. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is awards and recognition. We do not have any items under there. The following item on the agenda is approval of additional new agenda items. We have new agenda items 1, 3, 6, 9, and item 11. Does anyone on council wish to pull one of those for purpose of discussion? Seeing none, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the new agenda items. So moved. Second. No discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Community Redevelopment Agency, where now the council is going to be acting in its capacity as the Community Redevelopment Agency. The first item on the agenda, I will turn over to our city attorney.
Yes, this is, item number 1 is approve the site plan SP 18-02 to construct a 10,000 square foot physician office building in the TCCR Town Center Commercial Residential District and approve construction of on-street parking on St. Petersburg Drive. This is a quasi-judicial hearing, so anyone that's going to speak on this issue, if you could stand, raise your right hand, and be sworn under oath. Anyone that's going to speak. Swear the testimony you're going to give is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So we'd have initial presentation by staff, and Ms. Dolphiny is going to do that.
Good evening, Marie Daphne, Planning and Redevelopment Director. I'm going to show a brief PowerPoint. So this is a request for site plan approval for a 10,000 square foot building. It's located on Lot 4 in the Oldsmar Town Center. It's on the corner of St. Petersburg Drive and State Street. It's located in the TCCR district in the community redevelopment area. As I said, it's a request to construct a two-story 10,000 square foot physician office building. 5,000 will be a physician's office and 5,000 will be a regular office. The parking requirement for the site is 51 spaces, and the applicant has provided that in addition, additional parking. He's also constructing 12 spaces on St. Pete Drive. He will be removing 6 spaces that are currently on State Street. He wants to access his building from State Street, and then he'll replace them with 6 of the parking spaces on St. Pete. He's got direct access to State Street and St. Pete Drive, and these building setbacks will meet the maximum 10-foot setback from St. Pete and State as required by the code. The elevation, this complements the building across the street, the Galleria. It's consistent with the architectural requirements. The earth tones and the canopies are very attractive, and I think it's going to really add to the whole corner of the State Street, St. Pete Drive location. We're asking that the applicant provide a mobility management plan. Now we can consider mobility as opposed to transportation impact fee, requirements. And that's more in keeping with what we're trying to achieve for many modes of travel, like bicycle, pedestrian, golf carts, not just vehicle travel. So according to the ordinance, if you trip over 51 vehicle trips per day, then you're required to provide a mobility management plan. And what this is you are mitigating the impacts of your development, and it can be, access improvements, it can be landscape improvements, it could be, a bench located for pedestrians as they walk down the sidewalk, it can be providing sidewalks, etc. So the developer can also offset these improvements with impact fee credits. So he'll be getting impact fee credits for the additional 12 spaces on St. Pete Drive and any of these additional improvements. So staff is recommending approval of the physician's office building, Lot 4, Oldsmar Town Center, subject to the submission of the mobility management plan. And if the site plan is approved, that will include the approval of the St. Pete Drive on-street parking. And I'd like to enter the staff report into the record, and if there's any questions, I will try to answer them.
Anyone have a question?
I have a quick question. In the code, I was talking to Al about this earlier, for Mediterranean revival, are there any specific sort of instances given around what consists of Mediterranean revival, or is it just interpretive?
I think it's interpretive. It's very general. When the code was amended 8 years ago, we went through that whole process. We really didn't want to restrict something, it's general. We gave pictures, like the roof lines and the colors and et cetera. So, anything that isn't modern, I guess, that would be the thing. So it's pretty flexible.
Okay. That's all I had.
I have a question. Thank you. Is the parking space minimum met without the additional spaces on St. Petersburg Drive?
Well, he would have to provide an additional 6 spaces that he removed from the on-street, so that is why I think he's putting them on St. Pete Drive, as opposed, because the developer that developed Oldsmar Town Center received impact fee credits for placing those parking spaces on State Street.
On State Street there. So the answer is no then? The parking?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, but he doesn't have to provide actually 12. 6 would be...
6 would be sufficient.
But it would look kind of odd. That's just an opinion, but, it would be adequate just to provide 6, but he wants to provide additional for other people that are in the downtown area.
Are there any other questions? I have a question. I have a question regarding the mobility management plan. Can you speak about that a little bit? Is this a plan? I know this is new, correct?
2014.
2014. Okay. Well, maybe we haven't had much built since then, right?
Well, it used to be the transportation impact fee ordinance, but then the county changed it to a mobility fee. And what that is, they wanted to recognize, the impacts of development on pedestrians or bicyclists, et cetera. So they wanted to.
Broaden the scope.
Yes.
And so my question is this, when you were talking about some of the elements of that, is this a plan that is typically done by the developer in terms of submitting, here is our plan, or is the expectation that this is a plan that they go out, hire an engineer, go through all that process and expense to be able to submit the plan? That's
No, I
acceptable.
mean, the developer could do it. The potential owner could do it. It's just, we're providing these additional amenities. For example, we're going to move the building closer to the street. We're going to provide a wider sidewalk. We're going to put a bench there along the sidewalk. We're going to put landscaping. I mean, they can really bump it up and have intersection improvements. They could do street lighting there. I mean, you can get credit for all these things, but.
Okay.
So it could just be similar to the concurrency test statement where you just kind of itemize the things. It's not that complicated.
Okay.
I have a quick question. So the credits are if they do the extra things, like to make it more pedestrian friendly, to have the benches, to have the landscaping, then they get the credits.
Yeah, they could potentially get impact fee credits.
Okay. And is any of that in the plan? Any of
Yes,
those
already,
elements in the
he's
plan?
already provided those things,
Okay,
many of those things, but they just haven't been in a document.
Mayor, I have just a quick comment.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. I just want to say that I really like the way the building is designed, and it looks to match the town center across the street.
Hold your comment
Oh,
until,
sure.
these are questions for staff at this point. We'll have
sure.
discussion later. So I'll come back to you.
Yep.
Okay? Is there any other questions at this point?
I think I was just going to give you an example. Outside the town center, I believe that Mattamy Homes, previously they did mobility, like a mobility plan, and they did some intersection improvements. It's a lot more involved than what, would be required here. So.
Right.
Just one more point of clarification, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. Under the transportation section, according to the applicant, the physician and office use will generate 128.2
Peak hour.
per
Peak hour.
peak hour, 128 trips per hour.
Peak hour. No, there's.
Because in another spot it said per day.
I'm not a transportation planner, but usually peak hour, there's a time in the day, like maybe 7 to 9 and maybe 4
Where
to 6,
employees
where
are
there's more,
arriving.
trips coming in and out of the site. Yeah, so that's what they are measuring.
Okay.
That's a good question. I thought it was a typo.
I thought it was a typo as well, so it actually is
Should have
per
said peak hour, peak hour.
peak
There you go.
hour.
Any other
okay.
questions
Peak
for
hour.
staff?
No.
Tom?
So now it's time for the applicant to step forward and make any presentation that the applicant would like to present.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Hush Gavahi. I'm with Northside Engineering. We're located in Clearwater, 300 South Belcher Road. And we've been doing this kind of work for the past 40 years now. Time sort of ticks by. And I see around the room and I see Jerry. Thank you, Jerry. I've known Jerry for a long time. Marie's been here for a long time. Marie, please do not ever retire. We need you. And Dave also, from years back when we originally developed the Marriott and the restaurant and the whole town center way back when. And Dave was behind it, and he really helped us get the project through. So I don't know, maybe 20 years later, 25 years later, thank you. Same thing with your city hall, we did that as well. And I've known Tom for a long time. So anyhow, wanted to state that this project, Doctor's Office, is just going to be magnificent. As a part of our team, we have Dr. Shem himself here, and I would like to ask him in a minute to just come and talk about his business so you can see what sort of a business he does and how he can impact positively to the population in the neighborhood. Steve Spencer is our architect, and Vicky Hartman is one of our engineers that works on this project as well. So with that said, maybe I can ask Dr. Shim to just talk about your business a little bit so we can all get familiarized with your type of business. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is John Shim, and I hope in a year I can say from St. Pete Drive, Oldsmar. I'm an orthopedic surgeon. My specialty is spinal surgery. I've been in practice in the Tampa Bay area since 1993. In the last 7 or 8 years, I've transitioned my practice. So while I have a traditional doctor's practice, spinal surgery practice, I used to be chief of surgery at Meese Hospital and whatnot, I've transitioned to doing more evaluations, some medical legal work, and also we do a lot of education and videos and media. My media partner is Mark Pinson, sitting right there. I am going to have on the second floor the 5,000 square feet, 3,000 feet, a little more than that, is going to be dedicated to medical use. The other 2,000 is going to be dedicated to technology, video production, software development, applications development, development of online medical information. So that is why I am building a structure to help me, one, have 5,000 square feet for what I need, and hopefully as our business grows, have a second 5,000 feet in case we need it for future growth. I'm very excited to be able to speak in front of you, and I hope that we can be good neighbors sometime soon in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we believe we're bringing you a very wonderful project, a good addition to the rest of your town center. We have worked very, very hard with your staff. Marie's been extremely helpful. We've had several designs that we provided to the city and to Marie, and we had to massage it to get it right, and she and her team did a wonderful job. And what you see is a product of a teamwork between private and public. So it was a wonderful thing, and all the parking spaces are provided on site. All the required parking spaces are provided on site. The access that we provided on State Street was a requirement in one of our DRC meetings by your fire department to access the property better. So we had to give up 6 parking spaces on State Street, and then we said, all right, not a problem. We can provide that on St. Pete Drive, and while we're at it, make it look really nice. So we added another, I think, 5 spaces. So we may have like 11, 12, or 13 spaces. I think maybe 13 spaces, Vicky, on St. Pete Drive. And we're also providing some nice lighting that matches the rest of the area. So St. Pete Drive and State Street typically are really, it just seems like it's designed to be pedestrian friendly, kind of slow up the traffic a little bit, let merchants sort of interact with each other. So with that in mind, we figured that having those parking spaces would not just, it wouldn't benefit, it could benefit our site, but in general will benefit the merchants in the area. So having said that, we believe that we're bringing a very wonderful project to you. I think the site was finally designed to be consistent with the vision of the city. And team is here. If there are any questions that I can't answer, we'll be glad to join us. And I'll be here to answer any other questions. And before I walk, I just wanted to congratulate the mayor and the council members for re-election.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any questions of the applicant?
I have a question for the architect, Mr. Spencer, if I may. Thank you.
Yes, he's been sworn in. Sir, if you could state your name and your occupation.
Sir, my name's Stephen Spencer. I'm an architect. Do I need to give an address or anything?
Yes, sir, if you would.
Is a P.O. box sufficient?
We'd like a street address. Do you have
Okay.
your business street address?
Okay, 208 Buena Vista Drive North, Dunedin, Florida, 34698.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Spencer.
Yes, ma'am.
Obviously, we're not a participant when you're meeting with staff, and I'm sure many design reviews come back before staff. But the design in front of us this evening, I guess the question is, when you worked with Marie and staff, were there suggestions that you added the parapets at the top? I mean, what kinds of things did they request that you add, or was it more we were requesting that you detract from the design?
No, I've worked with staff and Marie on other projects, but they're very helpful. I came in with a few iterations, but I think the focus was to try and emulate some of the features of the building across the street.
Gallery,
And that's what it was with
Okay.
the balconies and canopies, but
Great.
I got good direction from them, so yes.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
Also,
there
if
any-
if I may add, also, we had to shift the building closer to the street. Originally, we had it further back, and Marie said, no, this needs to be a walkable area, and so that's why we brought the building so close to the right-of-way.
Yeah. Are there any questions over here?
So that puts the parking behind it as opposed to in front of it?
Yes.
I have a question. I'm just curious. How many jobs do you expect to add in the new business?
Well, so currently, my staff for our two businesses is about 12 people. And then, of course, we have the downstairs. And again, it's either for growth or to bring other basically tenants in. So right now it's about 12. We would hope to grow our business to become bigger, but that's an economic and a leadership issue with me. So I feel I'll bring more people in, but time will only tell.
I have a feeling you will.
Thank you.
Tom?
Do you have, I don't know, Mr. Gavahi, any other people that you want to have testify?
Are there any further questions?
Doesn't look like it.
Actually, I have one more question. The street parking, was there ever any consideration to make it parallel parking on St. Pete Drive versus where you're reversing into traffic?
Typically, parallel parking is not a good idea because, first of all, you lose 23 feet for every parking space. So you only get.
But you only needed 6, correct? I think you potentially may have been able to fit 6.
Yeah, it's really more than that. We were trying to help the merchants and make it more into like slow down the traffic, just check the businesses out. So parallel parking would be very unsafe and not very efficient.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think an advantage there would be that there's not a very.
I'm going to ask Councilmember, stick to specific questions to the applicant. We'll get to discussion.
Okay, it
if
was
you don't
about the
mind.
parking.
Thank you.
By the way, one other person, I'm sorry I forgot to say, Randy Mears is here also, the original developer. I'm so sorry, I just forgot about that.
Forgive you.
Forgot about Randy.
Oh, good. He's hard to forget, too.
So if there's nothing else, Mr. Gavahi, this would be the opportunity for the public to speak on this particular issue. If you'd have a seat, we may have you come back up to answer more questions. But is there anyone from the public that has been sworn in? Mr. Tilkey, did you want to speak? Okay. You have been sworn. I saw you.
Yes.
Okay. If you could state your name and address, please.
Dave Tilkey, 505 Arlington Avenue East. I have a question and then a comment that's more of a general comment. The first question is, in the first slide that came up, which was more like just a site survey, there were a lot of parking spaces, such as the ones all along the backside of the Holiday Inn. And then there was a bunch over alongside the existing parking garage. And I was wondering, were those spaces required of previous town center development? And are we now losing those? Because I know the ones behind the Holiday Inn are used quite often by buses and larger vehicles that are staying there at the Holiday Inn. So I'm curious, were those credited to somebody else in the past and we're now taking them away? That's my question. And then my comment is more about the town center plan and the credits that we give for on-street parking and just the credits that we give for being in the town center. The developer gets credit for the on-street parking and also gets a 10% reduction in the required spaces just for being in the town center. It used to be a higher number, and it was reduced. Marie reminded me of that. But I really think those spaces should be, those credits should be more for like restaurants or retail establishments where you have people coming and going, but also the credit is given because the thought is people are going to be walking there, going to be riding their bicycles there. If it were a bar, a restaurant, a little store, a shop, where local people would do that. And in office and spaces like this, I don't see that happening. And they get a credit for that, but yet we really don't get the advantage of it all. So that may be something for your work session where you're going to be talking about the town center and we need to change it. But, you know, even in this case, same thing. People aren't going to be riding their bicycle or walking down the street, I don't believe, for this particular business, unless the bottom floor gets some nice retail and people will be doing that. But the credits, as we could see right on State Street, we give the credits, but then 100% of those spaces are taken up by employees that are there for 8, 9, 10 hours a day, and the spaces really aren't usable. Thank you.
Good point, Dave.
Is there anyone else from the public? I'm going to have Marie come back up. Oh, I'm sorry. Randy?
Hello, I'm Randy Mears. I am managing member of Renell LLC, which owns Lot 4 that we're talking about tonight. I would like to strongly recommend that the council approve this site plan, not just because I'm selling the property, but I think the site layout and the building's use and architectural exemplify what the city of Oldsmar envisions for the redevelopment of downtown Oldsmar. A couple things on the St. Pete Drive parking. I'd like to give you a little historical perspective. When I first developed Oldsmar Town Center, I had an agreement with the city of Oldsmar to come in and redevelop all of downtown Oldsmar. I brought in redid State Street, brought in all the infrastructure, water lines, sewer lines, both sanitary, storm. Brought in the water lines, donated land for the transformers for TECO, and Oldsmar didn't have the money at that time to do that. So I did it, and I got transportation impact fee credits for that. Originally, these parking spaces that you see here tonight were supposed to be part of that deal. At that time, FDOT, Florida Department of Transportation, owned St. Petersburg Drive right away. They would not permit these parking spaces because they were, I think, at the end of widening Tampa Road, redoing the St. Pete Tampa Road intersection. As we all know, there's a big retention pond back there by the library that is the retention pond for Tampa Road. So they were going to be running pipe down there, so they didn't want the city of Oldsmar and I guess little old me and their building parking spaces to get in their way, so they wouldn't do it. Then a few years later, when the city did get ownership of St. Pete Drive, the city approached me again and said, hey, you want to go ahead and build those spaces? And I said, sure, but I don't want to do it for transportation impact fee credits because I got enough of those. So again, they didn't really have the money in the budget, so it didn't get built. I guess my point is that was always the plan, to have those spaces there. And even when y'all built the library, you have those spaces on both sides of the street for the library, and all of those spaces, plus the ones on State Street and Lee Street that I built, are for the public use. So your restaurants and your other items that you wanted, they get to use those. It's first come, first serve. It's not as if the doctor or Oldsmar Town Center has those exclusively. It's just they come and they use them. One other thing you don't know is that I still have a credit of 131 parking spaces, I believe, in downtown Oldsmar for my Oldsmar Town Center. With Dr. Shim doing Lot 4, that finishes out my project. So to Mr. Tilke's question, there's 131 spaces that Dave, that you could use for restaurants and all that sort of stuff. Okay? So again, I think it's a great deal, good project, and I think it'll be a kickstart for the redevelopment of downtown Oldsmar. I know y'all are very interested in doing that 8 acres. Okay?
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public? Maria, would staff come back up and address Mr. Tilke's question?
I'm going to flip back, and this is a survey or, aerial view of the the property. Those parking spaces that are, you know, inside the bread line, and I think that Randy can verify that even though there's cross-access parking, those are only really for this lot 4. That's correct. So, I mean, it's not like, you know, we're taking anything away from the town center right now. Those were always just dedicated to that lot.
Excellent, thank you. Tom?
Okay, so now there would be an opportunity for staff to summarize or the applicant to summarize if they wanted to add any additional information, and then we'd close the public hearing.
Okay.
So any additional information, Marie, that you wanted to address?
We're just recommending approval subject to the on-street parking being approved also with the site plan request.
In addition to the mobility plan?
Yes,
Okay.
excuse me.
Okay.
And Poosh, do you have anything else? Nothing? Okay. All right, so we'll close the public hearing.
Hearing, okay. Council. All right, so we have a recommendation from staff to approve site plan PC 1802 to construct a 10,000 square foot positions office building in the TCCR Town Center Commercial Residential District and approve construction of on-street parking on St. Petersburg Drive, a condition under the condition of including a mobility management plan. Perfect. Do I have a motion for
For
approval?
discussion?
Yeah.
Discussion.
So moved.
Second.
Second, discussion.
Start down
Start
here.
with you.
As has been discussed, my initial concern was the parking spots along St. Pete Drive that would require anyone, regardless of whether they're patronizing this particular establishment or others, to reverse into oncoming traffic that turns either right from Tampa Road or left from Tampa Road down St. Petersburg Drive. I myself and my husband, we make that trip almost every single day because we go in and out, and I live on Lafayette. I'm concerned that it could create an opportunity for an accident, and that was why I asked the particular question as to whether or not the site meets the requirement without those spaces. That's a concern of mine. It was somewhat alleviated today. I went over and spoke to Gary over at Awesome Automotive, which is across the street, because he's there Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 every day, and we spent some time talking about it. He actually expressed to me that he had zero concern about the spaces. He said they're going just as fast coming from the library side up toward the stop sign at the intersection there, and there's spaces, as has been mentioned, that reverse into that oncoming traffic. He said he didn't envision it to be a particular problem, but more spaces could be good for any potential, future development. My other concern is that although to the public it's not immediately evident the background of everything, folks are going to see potentially this building go up, and it's a little bit of a heartbreaker for me in that I was hoping to see something a little more retail oriented. I initially felt a little bit of disappointment that the large rectangular building kind of kills the corner, if you know what I mean. I am a little bit encouraged by some of the testimony I've heard about the physician's office mainly being in one half of the building, and then perhaps the other half of the building could be for something else. I am encouraged, though, by the potential for additional jobs, and specifically potentially high-paying and more sophisticated jobs. That was definitely a plus to me. I like to see more high-paying, sophisticated jobs here for potentially our residents or other people to come here. As we know from our Economic Development Forum, we are an exporter of jobs. The other thing, and this is just a personal thing, everybody I'm sure will give their input, but the Galleria style for me with the awnings, for better or worse, it's not my thing. I feel the awnings don't weather very well over time. I feel like that design looks a little bit tired, but at the same time, I understand the desire to kind of match it to the rest of the Galleria. I guess I love sort of the Washington Avenue look, this sort of New Orleans style look a little bit better. That's just my personal preference, but I do understand the drive to kind of make it match. I was hoping to see maybe a couple more of the Mediterranean Revival elements, but again, that's just me. I guess I'm kind of like 50-50 on the catalyst issue. I am interested in the discussion as to what the other council members think about the parking.
Councilmember McGee.
So I was asking, thank you, Mayor, I was asking the questions about the architecture and the code, because when I look at this building, I see the Galleria. I don't see Mediterranean Revival. I wasn't on the council when the Galleria was voted on at the time, and I appreciate the work to make it consistent with the architecture. But we've also had these conversations where we don't want the entire city to look all the same, like a sea of beige on Tampa Road, which often happens sometimes when you sort of use the Goodwill building as the example for every other new building that gets built. Mediterranean Revival, yes, there are sort of parapets on the roof, but to me, you know, the library is a great example of Mediterranean Revival, tiled roofs, archways, sort of these little interior courtyards and patios. I think that's a great example. This is awnings and a couple parapets. That to me doesn't meet the code of Mediterranean Revival. I think there's some really specific things that are missing that I personally would like to see. I think in that kind of visibility of a corner, and it sets the precedence for what our downtown may become. It's not a standout. It's not special. It's not unique. It doesn't showcase Oldsmar. It's you know, it could be anywhere, and I wouldn't know where I was. And so I think it's really important as we're meeting with the architects and developers, because I'm sure they've been through many iterations. We might have told them to do exactly this. That we're making sure that we're getting very specific about those type of architecture. If it's Mediterranean Revival, there are 5 things that meet Mediterranean Revival, and I see maybe one thing here that might be considered. Again, to your point, I don't, you know, the Galleria was a great project when it was built, but it's 12-year-old architecture. So I don't think that's what we should be leveraging to set the precedence for the future for our downtown. In regards to the parking, I did have the same concern. You know, people are coming from, say, 50, 45 mile per hour, turning in real quickly. I do also appreciate, though, that does tend to make people slow down. Once they've been there once or twice, they know that cars might be reversing. It may help sort of slow the traffic. But that's the reason I brought up the parallel parking, because for me, you know, if you're parallel parked, you can see when you go to pull out versus having to reverse with a couple cars next to you and you can't see what you're reversing into. So I do have that concern, but I do think that the on-street parking that was done in front of the library has really improved that whole area, makes it feel more walkable. So I just have a few safety concerns, but other than that, I don't have an issue with the street parking.
Okay, this is going to be the 3. There's a lot of things that I agree with Councilmember Gannon and Councilmember McGee. I kind of agree with the architecture. I think that it is kind of tired. I was wondering whether or not we could, in the future, be more involved with or have a work session to revise or add, because obviously Gabby has a lot of experience with architecture. I went to school and learned some of architecture, so possibly to be able to be in with the meetings or maybe revise the code so that we can update it, so that it can be more signature Oldsmar, more updated Oldsmar. The parking issue doesn't bother me because there's not that big of a space between the light and the stop sign. So I don't see 55 miles an hour. I don't see people going that fast between there and the stop sign. And the parking spaces in front of the library, it's no problem to pull out onto St. Pete Drive, and that's a much bigger stretch where people are going a lot faster. So I like the idea of having the additional 6 in order to have it at the angle. And it also, it's consistent with the library. So I don't have an issue there. I did want to know more about the elements that we can't see that are the pedestrian friendly. You know, the bike racks. I know it might sound trivial to some people. It's not like the building and it's not like the architecture, but it goes toward what we're going to have as people that aren't going to be going, well, it is on the plans. Okay, so maybe I just didn't see it in what I was looking at.
Yeah, I'm going to ask no comments from the audience, please.
Okay, so, yeah, so I'll have to.
But she probably should ask you that while you were standing there, right?
But I couldn't, right?
Yeah, you
I
could
tried
ask
to,
questions.
and you said.
No, you can ask questions of each person who's speaking. It was more giving opinion that is
Oh, I
we
got
wait
you.
to now.
It's been 3 years. I'm a little rusty.
That's all right.
Mayor.
We never seem to do it precisely that way anyhow.
Okay,
So it's
so
okay.
because I would like to see more things that are for the pedestrians, because it is a doctor's office. I am encouraged, though, by the high-tech stuff that Dr. Shim was talking about, because that's the future. If the office is going to be wherever the office is going to be, yet we're going to grow into something that is cutting edge, that is going to be good for Oldsmar, and that's going to be good for this, it might even bring more people here. So I'm encouraged about that. As far as there not being retail, that doesn't bother me, only because business is business. I mean, people have to build what's gonna make money, and it might not make money a retail in that location or at this time. But then if you choose to put a cafe or whatever in there, whatever you guys choose to do to bring more people in, to bring more of the neighbors in, that would be awesome as well. So, but yeah, I guess my biggest concern is the look.
Okay. Councilman Zaraki.
Thank you, Mayor. It's kind of funny, Dave Kilty mentioned that there's 40 different people in the room and everybody has a different opinion. And I think you're right, Dave. The first thing I want to talk about is the parking. I agree with Linda. I don't really have a problem with the parking because coming from Tampa Road, I don't think there are going to be any, there might be 1 or 2 speeders, but I don't think that's going to be an issue because there is a 4-way stop sign at the intersection. And as Katie mentioned, Awesome Automotive across the street, I think that would help him because he's kind of bind with, he doesn't have enough parking anyways. So I like what you mentioned there. So I don't think I have a problem with the parking. I'm appreciative that you're adding 6 extra spaces. I think that's a good thing. I really am excited about the jobs, the high-paying jobs, and your vision for leadership and bringing new people to our city. I really enjoy that concept, and I appreciate you explaining that to us. That meant a lot to me. The last thing I want to talk about is the design. I like the design. I have no problems with it whatsoever. I actually feel that whole intersection, that corner lot is going to match with the town center, and I feel that this is something, a medical building is something that our city needs in that area, and I kind of like the idea. So I don't have a problem with that, and that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Councilman. I have a few comments. One is, and it's relevant, obvious, to this discussion right now, but it's more in general a little bit. I think Council Member McGee is right. Maybe we should have a workshop on kind of design and code because
These 5 things, then.
yeah, because we're actually we're approving a site plan, right? Not necessarily the detail of the building. And so when we've had our pattern books approved by the council, that kind of becomes the message to anybody who wants to build something or buy a piece of land there that they can feel comfortable saying, okay, it's in this book. I know if it's in this book, I'm going to work with staff. Staff's going to say, yeah, we feel like these elements match that, the building part of it, versus us doing it on the council front, right? So I think maybe to your point, what we should do is plan to have a workshop. Let's revisit that. Let's try to tighten it up so that the council feels pretty good about it and pretty comfortable about it. But I also will say this, keep in mind that unlike when we talk about, the workshop we're gonna have on Thursday, right? That piece of property over there, and we own that land. So I think the application to some of the questions and concerns up here is more appropriately reserved for land that we own. Property rights, this isn't a piece of our property, right? So those property rights, those property owners, look at the book, they bought the property, they've been part of the dance for a while, right? So getting into what they want to build there probably becomes less of our place to say other than, does it meet within this range of the pattern book? Because they own the property, it's not our property. When we get into our property, that's a whole different shooting match, right? We could say, yeah, we don't like that. And, because none of us are architects up here. None of us are in commercial real estate. We don't know what sells. We know what we like. Personally, I really like the building, but you're probably right. We could probably go around the room. We'd have yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. But I also know that when it comes to that, to some extent, and I say this to myself, my opinion doesn't really matter when it comes to whether I like the building or not. What I ask myself is, does it generally match with the other aesthetics in the area? Does it have those certain characteristics? You could potentially debate that, right? But I also think that there's some clarity so that we can avoid that feeling in the future by let's have a workshop to tighten it down for future property owners. So they go, oh, those are the rules, right? And so from my perspective, I view it a little differently because, you're talking to a guy who originally painted his entire house one color, right? And so now I'm going to vote and tell him what I like, if this color's good or not. Probably not. It's just being honest. The parking spaces, and to Randy's point, those style parking spaces are ideal for a downtown. I recognize the potential safety concerns. However, that's part of the reason we put in that four-way stop years ago. I don't know how many people remember that there was no four-way stop there.
I remember.
And a lot of people were really upset when it went in. But it was vision for the future of saying, we want to slow things down. The goal is to get these, like when you walk into a downtown, so you get more spaces, it gets it more street friendly. I'm excited to see that we're getting those spaces. I'm even more excited to see that the city's not paying to get those spaces. That really makes me happy too. And so, it's a win for us on that side. And I feel pretty strongly about that. But and of course, I agree with Councilmember Norris. I like seeing more jobs in that area come here. And that might be all retail down there below. It very well could prove to be. Who knows? And here's the reason why. It's zoned to be able to do that or not do that. They own the property. You can do that or not do that. Here's your rights. And so from that perspective, who knows what will end up there, right? I think it also depends on how well this council does in terms of what kind of impact we make on the surrounding areas. Well, it doesn't warrant more retail coming because we're making some good decisions about what we're bringing to Oldsmar, which I'm convinced that we will. And so if there's no more comments, I'm going to go to roll call.
I just have one more thing to add about the architecture.
Councilman McGee.
What I would
Member.
say, thank you, is that what we decide this evening and every time we vote on something like this, we set a precedent for what that book looks like in the future. Because when we vote on something such as this that's similar to the Galleria from 12 or so years ago, now when the next project comes before, oh, well, you just approved this building right here on the corner. So I would state strongly that Mediterranean Revival or any architecture in our book has very clear items that characterize what it is. And this is missing several of those items. It's something that I think is important because of the visibility to that lot. I am thrilled that this business and this doctor wants to be here in our city. That lot has been empty for years. I'm sure Randy's thrilled to have this opportunity as well. So it has nothing to do with the business, but it has to do with setting a precedent for what we want the future city to look like. And although we don't own that land, we own the code, and the code says Mediterranean Revival or those other architectures. And because they went with one that was sort of similar to the Galleria, but I will state that, I still believe this is not an example of really a Mediterranean Revival, and it's not close to what the library has done and brought and will be the legacy for the city and future buildings that are developed. So
Fair enough.
That's all I have to add.
One final comment as well. I would be remiss if I didn't evoke the thoughts of former mayor and council member Beaverland, which is, if this is what you're showing me, this is what I'm going to get. You know what I mean? And so while I do appreciate that,
Kind of ironic that you just quoted. I'm just saying.
Well, I think there's a lot of merit to that.
Sure.
If that's what you're showing me and that's what you're telling the public is going to go there, that's what I expect to get. And by the same token, if it's not there and it's something that I'm expecting, whether it's something that will earn them credits or something, and I don't see it, well, it behooves me to make sure that what I am expecting to be there is there, then I say so. I want that to be there. That's all.
Okay, any other comments?
And I
Sure.
just want to, in the defense of the developers and the planning department, y'all did your job. I mean, I see what needs to be changed here is we need to update the parameters that they have, because they're going by what's in the parameters. We need to update the parameters, and that's what we need to do. So that way, they don't have to be frustrated with bringing us renditions and what they come up with, and the architect and everybody else saying, okay, well, this was what they wanted, and now they say they want something else. We need to change it. We need to update it.
Happened in the past,
12
too.
years is a long time, So that's my point.
True.
point.
Anything else?
Nope, I'm all set. Thank you,
Okay.
Mayor.
Yeah, I think everyone's made some really good points. And I do think that it's incumbent upon us moving forward that, because I do believe this has been a reoccurring problem in the past,
Yes.
where we've had a project that technically met those characteristics, and yet we shot it down because frankly, we should go back,
Exactly.
really focus on what we're saying we want. This is a council that will be in position for at least a couple of years, right? So that they have better tools to work with. Developers aren't guessing. They're not getting concerned about doing something in Oldsmar because we read the book, we thought we did what we did, we worked with staff, went to council, and they went, oh, we don't like it. That kind of thing, right? So, but I think it's very relevant right out of the chute that we hit on this, because this is something we should attack clearly, because it's gonna come up again and again. All right, with that, City Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Norris?
Yes.
Councilmember Saraki?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Mickey?
Yes.
Councilmember Gannon?
Yes.
Mayor Seidel?
Yes.
Plan SP 18-02 to construct a 10,000 square foot physician office building in the TCCR Town Center Commercial Residential District and approve construction of on-street parking on St. Petersburg Drive, subject to the submission of the mobility management plan. The safety improvements to ensure motorists are protected is approved with 5 votes for and 0 against.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Emma. Thank you. All right, item number 2 on the agenda, select date and time for Town Center work session. Al, was there any that kind of became a consensus in your meetings?
Fortunately, in my conversations with council, I don't think we have one that works for everybody. Wednesday, April 24th, Linda said she was out. Gabby, you said you were
Quarter in.
good that day, or that was
On the
when you're-
24th, yeah.
She's good that day. So Linda was out for the 24th. 25th, I hadn't heard from anybody, one way or the other.
25th works for me.
Works for me.
The 24th.
25th.
25th we're talking
We're on the
about now.
25th now.
Yep.
Work for you?
25th I can do.
Work for you?
I can do,
Make it work, yeah. It's the day before end of quarter, but
Yep.
at least it's not on end of quarter.
Yes,
so.
yes?
I can do it.
Horrible for me. No, I'm kidding. I actually have something that day, but I'm going to change it. so we
Thursday,
get it.
April
I do have
25th.
one question before we pull the trigger on this of Felicia, and that is because I envision that we will have done a lot of pre-work during the planning meeting, and I'm assuming you feel comfortable that it's enough time for you to put together and kind of summarize maybe some of the information from the planning meeting we do? Excellent. Excellent. That's what you call an on-the-spot commitment. I like it. So if everybody's good with that, where we go? 25th?
Yes.
Yeah.
April 25th of
Thursday, 25th. Thank you. All right. Next item on the agenda is a consent docket. Would the clerk please announce the consent docket items?
Item number 3, accept resignation of Brian Mahoney from the Firefighter Pension Board. Item number 4, approve minutes of the March 19, 2019 Canvassing Board meeting. And item number 5, approve minutes of March 19, 2019 City Council meeting.
Excellent. Does anybody wish to pull anything from the consent docket?
No.
Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Moved.
Second.
Motion. The second by Norm. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. City of Oldsmar. City of Oldsmar, we have 2 items on the agenda in this section. Item number 6, appoint Andrew Knapp as trustee of the Firefighter Pension Board. Andrew, come on up. You know, the old mayor, he used to make people sing and dance, but I'm nicer.
What are my options?
Now you gotta hum. Just gotta hum a tune. Doesn't even have to be good. Sir, as you know, we like to have people come up. No, okay, stop. You're good. As you know, we like to try to meet people. I think everyone up here knows you. I will tell you personally that I'm excited to see that you're expanding your involvement in the city. I think that's good for Oldsmar. Anybody got any questions? No?
Thanks for wanting to serve.
I have a question, if anybody would be willing to give advice. In order to properly serve this board well, what resources, maybe Al's the best one, what resources would I be able to look into to, sharpen my axe, if you would,
go
to serve
Talk
well?
to Jason.
Go read minutes.
I would go, exactly. I would go back and read the minutes. I'll show you the actual evaluation, and you can take whatever questions you get out of that. You can speak to Cindy, me, Garrett. If you want to get Jason's involvement or Renee, just immerse yourself in the people that are part of it. But the minutes would probably be the best thing to start with.
All right.
It's a great place. I served on that board before, and I'll tell you, it's a great place to start. And after you read all the minutes, you'll probably have more questions and know what questions to have. Yeah, that's some good resources that Al mentioned.
You're on code enforcement now and
As an alternate.
as an alternate on code enforcement. Okay.
Yeah.
For the few times that we meet.
Just
As
make
mentioned
sure,
earlier.
just make sure you don't get confused as to which meeting you're at.
Might be an issue.
All right, do I have a motion? So moved. Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying Andrew.
Andrew.
Right, motion
All right,
passed.
thank you.
Good job. Oh, let's see, what's this next one? What's this proclamation for the library? I'm gonna read it from up here and then come down and present it.
Who's in charge of the
Next item on the agenda, proclamation for National Library Week. So let me read the proclamation from the Office of the Mayor, Oldsmar, Florida, National Library Week. Whereas, libraries are not just about what they have for people, but what they do for what they do for and with people. And whereas, libraries have long served as trusted and treasured institutions, and library workers and librarians fuel efforts to better their communities, campuses, and schools. And whereas librarians continue to lead the way in leveling the playing field for all those who seek information and access to technology. And whereas libraries and librarians look beyond their traditional roles and provide transformative opportunities for education, employment, entrepreneurship, empowerment, and engagement, as well as new services to connect closely with the patron's needs. And whereas libraries are pioneers supporting democracy and affecting social change with a commitment to providing equitable access to information for all library users regardless of race, ethnicity, creed, ability, sexual orientation, gender identity, or social economic status. And whereas libraries lead in working with diverse communities, including people of color, immigrants, and people with disabilities, offering services and educational resources that transform communities, open minds, and promote inclusion and diversity. And whereas libraries, librarians, library workers, and supporters across America are celebrating National Library Week with the theme of Libraries Equal Strong Communities. Now, therefore, I, Eric Seidel, Mayor of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, do hereby proclaim the week of April 7th through the 13th, 2019, as National Library Week in the City of Oldsmar, and encourage all residents to visit the library this week and explore what's new at your library and engage with your librarians. Dated April 2nd, 2019, Mayor Eric Seidel. And I'd like to call our librarian up to present her with this. Susan?
Sue, can you repeat all the whereases that you just read?
I can tell she wrote this. And, you know, when I misread part of it at the beginning, I thought, how ironic. It's for a library, and I'm misreading something. Photo op. Yeah. You could show the big print part 1 too. Is there anything you'd like to add? Are you sure? Sure. You know, I know Susan personally, her and Mike, and so even though we don't talk about city stuff, I do when we get around budget time, I always talk about, do we really need books? Do you really need this budget? Then she knows. Thank you. Thank you for all your hard work. It's hard to believe. But I, along with some others, were on council when we cut the ribbon for the new library that long ago.
It's a beautiful building.
It really is. Does it meet the architectural design, though? Okay. Gabby says it does, and I know it does. I'm going to defer to her and Linda for now. All right, put the glasses back on and get moving here. City Attorney.
I have for you tonight, item number 8 on your agenda is to approve the essentially built-out agreement for the Tampa Bay Park of Commerce. There is some staffing that is in your packet. Marie, did you want to address that, or did you want me to do that? Okay, so to give you a little bit of background, the Tampa Bay Park of Commerce originally consisted of approximately 570 acres. About 170 of those acres was conveyed to the Southwest Florida Water Management District. The remainder of the phases were built over a period of time after being annexed into the city. As a result of this being a development of regional impact, there was a development order that was entered, and it allowed for certain development parameters. I'm going to read some of the numbers to you because there is a matrix that is attached to the agreement that shows some crossover in those numbers. So the development order that was originally entered allowed for the development of 792,000 square feet of office, 779,227 square feet of light industrial, and 39,362 gross feet of commercial. In addition, the development order provided that there was the conversion of uses which may occur within the development, provided that the development square footage is not exceeded. That is what is happening in the matrix that is attached. There is some changes within those uses. To date, 580,662 square feet of office and 696,982 square feet of light industrial of entitlements has been constructed. Per the equivalency matrix table that's attached to the agreement that you're considering for approval, there is 211,338 square feet of approved office entitlements, 82,245 square feet of light industrial, and 39,362 gross square feet of commercial. As part of this essentially built-out agreement process, the developer is proposing to convert 24,000 square feet of commercial entitlements into 206,688 square feet of industrial, leaving a balance of 211,338 gross square feet of office. This document is being brought to you as basically a document that will close out this project. The reason that it's being asked and be provided to you a little bit early, because the DO does expire in March of 2020. It basically relieves the developer from the obligation of filing annual reports, since there is no real need for them. The city staff does not have a problem with entering into this agreement. Pursuant to Florida law, the developer and the city may enter into this agreement to terminate the DRI. City staff has reviewed the application and concurs that the project has been fully mitigated and has proceeded in accordance with the development order that was originally ordered. The project is essentially built out with the exception of a limited amount of development consisting of 4 parcels, and no unmitigated impacts would be anticipated from these development parcels. Based upon the background that staff has given you in your packet, staff has determined that the project qualifies to enter into this essentially built-out agreement under the provisions of the statutes, 380.06, and therefore the staff and I are recommending approval of this essentially built-out agreement. I will tell you that I worked with Marie and with the developer on the language in this document. It has been tweaked many, many times. We're comfortable with the way that it reads now. And I'm not sure if there is someone from HA Partners Limited here tonight. Yes. He may be able to, Clayton?
Yeah, Clayton.
Maybe you'll answer your questions if you have any, or Marie or I would be happy to answer them too. Clayton, did you have anything that you wanted to say?
I really don't. Tom did a good job of running it down. We started talking about this, I think actually Marie and I met in Pinellas County in Clearwater to talk about this probably like 3 years ago, and the legislature has kept changing the rules. So we've finally gotten them pinned down, and we've got an agreement, and we're happy to have it, and we thank you all for the work.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are there any questions?
No?
I had a couple.
All right, well, let's get a motion on the floor so we can discuss it.
So moved.
Do I have a second? And the motion is to approve as presented from staff?
Yes.
Okay. Discussion.
One of my questions is essentially, and maybe Clayton answered it, that the process was started 3 years ago, but why not just run it out? It's only one more year and potentially one more annual report. I was just curious as to what are these onerous requirements of reporting that would cause you to spend the time and money to develop this agreement?
Okay, so either Clayton or Marie, Clayton or Marie, whoever wanted. Okay.
Basically, I mean, it's expensive to file the annual report, so it's complicated and there's a lot of paperwork involved, and why do it really? And also, the developer does not own any of the lots any longer, even though they're in Park of Commerce. He sold them all, so he has no control over them.
Okay.
So he'd be filing, an annual report for.
Something he doesn't, yeah. Okay, understood.
Anybody else have any questions?
Oh, I wasn't done yet.
Oh, we'll get to it?
The paragraph 7 on page 45, Tom, it says that the county can terminate the agreement unilaterally or file suit if it was based on materially inaccurate information. Does the city not have the same right? Or is that because of the statute?
I believe it's from the underlying approval process that we had with the county.
Okay.
And the way that it's being done right now is the developer and the city are going to sign this agreement, and then it's going to go to the county for approval. And so we wanted to make sure that.
Ratifying.
Basically,
Okay.
yeah.
And then my last question, I promise, the sentence right before paragraph 4, it says, the city and county may require site access management improvements under local city and county access management regulations. Should it be, I'm wondering if it's mutually exclusive, the site access management improvements. Is that site access and management improvements, or? If they are mutually exclusive, I'm wondering if it needs some kind of separation. If not, then it's probably fine.
Okay, so I'm not sure where the access issues were. And so, so Clayton, do you have any comments on that? Okay.
What page?
I think you're actually,
Let me just make sure all the council members are on the same page. So we're on page 3 of the agreement, which is page 45 of your agenda packet, and we're talking about the last sentence in paragraph 3. And that sentence reads, the city and county may require site access management improvements under local city and county access management regulations, which are directly related to site plan approval for the remaining entitlements.
so Marie actually is probably better qualified to answer this, but what I'll tell you is that is a protection for the city, so that if you have in your code a requirement, if something is tripped in your code that would require a turn lane or something, site access management is kind of a term of art.
Okay.
That generally means turn lanes, in my world anyway. And so it just is saying that regardless of what this agreement says, if something gets tripped, you're still allowed to require those access management, which is a health and safety issue. So it's a protection for y'all.
Well, sure.
Councilmember, you done?
Yes, I am. Never get those lawyers
Thank you.
together.
Thank you so much. Anyone else? I have a comment on it, if nobody else, if everyone is done. I will say this, years ago, I either had the opportunity or misfortune of being involved in a DRI. And I can tell you firsthand what the reporting requirements were like, were just total craziness.
Yeah.
I mean, so far, if this is over the top, it's way up there then, because the cost, the ongoing maintenance, and the reality of it is, especially when the project is essentially done, now, and you still have to go through those costs and expense, time, and it really is, it was an eye-opener when I went through it. I didn't own the project, but I was involved in the project, and I just couldn't believe what was required. This was in a different situation completely, but I do have some familiarity with it, and it's really, it's some crazy stuff. So I can appreciate if someone's actually done, they don't actually own the lots, but yet they're still on the hook for that kind of reporting when really the clock is essentially run out. But anyhow, no other comments? I'm going to go ahead and,
To approve the essentially built-out.
do I already have a motion on the floor?
Oh, there was one?
Yep, all right, so since you're ready to vote, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? Mr. Trask?
That's all I have today. Thank you.
You're welcome. At this time, I move to the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 9 is approve the recommendation to award contract 2019-003, invitation to bid for the Oldsmar Sports Complex roller street hockey rink construction to EnviroBuild LLC. And this is, as you approved originally in the meeting, a new agenda item. We're asking council to approve the recommendation to award the contract for the construction of our street roller rink to EnviroBuild LLC in the amount of $612,311.78, including project contingencies. On November 6, 2018, the Oldsmar City Council approved a revised cooperation and license agreement between the city and the Lightning Foundation Incorporated, which outlined the general terms and conditions behind the planned construction of an outdoor roller street hockey rink in the city. On November 20th, 2018, the Oldsmar City Council authorized the city manager to advertise construction bid 2019-003 ITB for the construction of this project. A total of 4 bids were received for the above referenced project. Each was reviewed for consistency and potential errors. References were verified for the lowest bidder, EnviroBuild LLC, to ensure that this company has performed similar work and received favorable reviews. This company has completed similar hockey rinks at Winston Park in Hillsborough County and at the Lightning Maid Training Complex in Tampa, where we currently participate with employees in the Street Hockey Adult League. We're getting killed. Staff recommends approval of the total calculated bid to include the construction of an outdoor roller street hockey rink, including the surface, canopy, dasher boards, scoreboard, lighting, and associated drainage improvements. Funding for this project is available in the fiscal capital improvement budget, Fund 302, Oldsmar Sports Complex Improvements. Staff enthusiastically recommends approval.
Well, guys, for a lack of motion. No, do I have a motion?
I do, motion.
Could I?
Yeah, well, for discussion.
Yes, I would like.
I'll
oh,
second
okay.
it.
Yes.
A motion, who made the motion?
I did.
Dan did.
Second.
Second, all right, we have a motion, a second discussion.
I would like, if Al is okay with it, to explain to people a little bit more, because I was so excited, God bless you.
Bless you.
I was so excited when he was telling me about this with all the different things that it can do. So if Al would please elaborate.
Mayor?
Please do.
If, what Linda's referring to is as enthusiastic a hockey fan as I am and Councilmember Siraki is, we both play on this team. The thing that put me over the top, Chip's on the team too. So's Garrett. I'm sorry.
And you're still
Anybody
getting
else?
killed?
Yeah, sorry.
Come on.
So what we were referring to is the thing I find most exciting about this is the possible opportunity for the number of recreational programs that this will add to the array that we offer our citizens. Doesn't mean we're not going to open up leagues to people beyond our own borders, but we've identified between youth, adult, and okay, if I have my way, senior leagues, about 12 different programs that we could offer on the rink itself. We've already verified visually, because we're playing at the Lightning Maid Trading Center. You can play roller hockey, you can play street hockey. We can actually buy, and it's not contemplated here, you can buy artificial ice tiles, so theoretically you could, we don't plan to. You can play indoor-outdoor soccer, you can play pickleball, you can play dodgeball. So with those 5 programs on more than one level, say youth and adult or any other combination, so we can have at least 10 programs that we can offer here. The other thing about this particular agreement that is so exciting and represented another big reason why we kind of fell in love with the thought is that the Lightning have agreed to help us run the leagues. They will run clinics. They will bring Lightning players. They will have a tournament with prizes and everything. So we're developing a relationship with the best-run organization in sports right now. So this was extremely exciting, and my focus, I know we've had a lot of talk about sports tourism and all that stuff. My focus was, this is for us. This is for our people, our kids, a couple of old guys. But this is, my thought was, this is for the citizens of Oldsmar, and if you can't already tell, I can't wait. So please pass it.
And one more thing that I'd like him to talk about, if you don't mind, Al, is you said that the guy that was a GM for the Lightning, when the Lightning won the Cup, is going to be involved in this. And so many people come that at another site, didn't they have to knock a building down for the photographs and then rebuild the building?
Yeah, what Linda was referring to is Jay Feaster, who is the general manager of the team the year they won the Cup, is the director of community hockey for the team now. And the rink that we fell in love with, largely because it has a canopy, was built by Mr. Vinnick and the association in Winston Park in East Tampa. When they had the grand opening, the commissioner of the NHL and some of the players, it was such a big deal that the NHL people, because the funding for this, we're getting funding from the Lightning to assist us in the project, that they required the people at Winston Park to eliminate a basketball court because it was in the visual sight line of the promotional pictures they wanted to do for the grand opening. Now, before you say that's a bad thing, after they were done with the whole thing, they rebuilt them a new basketball court on another parts of the property.
That's pretty awesome.
We have a...
Isn't that awesome?
And Mr. Feaster has told me, with as exciting as that grand opening was, this one's going to kill it. And assuming this goes to plan from here, we will be the first to have a rink in Pinellas County.
Yes.
It's exciting stuff.
Nosing out Clearwater.
Very exciting stuff.
Thank you, Al. Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. Any other comments?
Quick question, because I don't recall seeing it in here. What was the timeline if we approve this evening?
Well, we assume 120 days, construction, probably 30 to get going. So figure optimistically 4 months, more likely 5.
Okay.
From the notice to proceed.
Any other comments? I don't even have to ask Councilman Saraki how he feels about it.
I'm so excited. What I'm excited about, it's gonna be 5-on-5 instead of, because right now we're currently playing 3-on-3 with a goalie, and it's kind of a smaller rink. This is gonna be a larger rink, and I feel it's gonna be better for, having 5-on-5, like, regular hockey.
Translation, it means we can stand around more. When it's 3-on-3, and I'm serious, if you watch a shift, it's 3-on-3. The first minute, everybody's running around. After a minute, everybody's standing. 5-on-5, you can more play your position. You don't have to run around as much.
Do you all wear
Sorry, Dan.
full face masks?
No.
Sorry?
Okay, that's, I don't know if we can approve, if you're not wearing full face masks, we're gonna
No,
come back.
it's a plastic ball.
3 of you aren't gonna have any teeth.
I don't know, I might want to
Chip,
come
you want
play
to comment
after
on that?
you know?
Chip got hit.
Oh, it can be the,
All right, let's bring it back together. Does anybody else have any other comments?
Nick. No.
Any meaningful comments? I'll tell you, I'm excited about this partnership with the Lightning for many reasons.
Yeah.
Certainly, I'm excited about the rink. I think it's a great idea, and some of us who've been on council, we had the benefit of all the detail of it earlier. So I'm glad to see that the new council members are excited about it as well.
Really good.
Because I think it's a, there's a challenge with a lot of youth sports right now, specifically in Little League and some of those where travel ball is really hurting enrollment and so forth. And I think it's incumbent upon a city to start thinking ahead and looking into different, I won't even call it a niche, but opportunities, so that we continue to keep our sports offering exciting and relevant. And listen, the fact that the Lightning Foundation is contributing about $100,000 worth of they're reimbursing us about $100,000 on some of the key components of the ring. Well, that doesn't hurt my feelings either.
Mm-hmm.
That's a commitment. When we did this stuff with the Red Bull, we spent a lot of money, and yeah, we improved the fields, which was a good thing because it was a lasting capital improvement, but there was no real commitment. And I'm excited about it. The only thing I'm not excited about it is Mayor Bibas was really upset that this wasn't going to get done while he was still mayor. And so I said to him, you know what? You come out and you cut the ribbon when it comes. You started that and everything else, But then I saw the price tag of it, and I said, wait a minute, we're paying for it, this council is. It's kind of like going out and buying your spouse some nice jewelry and like getting credit for the idea, and then you say, oh, by the way, I used your credit card. You know. So I don't know. Well, I guess I'll get over that. Anyhow, sensing that you're ready to vote, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Yes. All right.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 10 is adopt resolution 2019-06, providing for the allocation of 1/10 of a mil in ad valorem taxes to the Public Safety Impact Fund for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2018, and for every year thereafter. A little background: on October 3rd, 1995, City Council adopted resolution number 9535, which provided for an allocation of 1/10 of a mil in ad valorem taxes directly to the Public Safety Impact Fund annually. On September 18th, year 2006, City Council adopted another resolution, 2006-37, which repealed the original resolution effective October 1, 06, and therefore halted the annual transfer. If adopted, Resolution 2019-06 will re-implement the annual allocation once again with the intention of supplementing public safety impact fees in the purchase of fire department capital expenditures. Little more relevant detail: with our current ad valorem tax revenue, this will likely be about $125,000 to $150,000 a year, and it is authorized. It'll supplement the funding from what we call the fire suppression capital fee, which is charged on all new construction via Code 30-3 that has not generated enough money to keep up with the necessary expenses we have to buy fire trucks are expensive.
They are. All right, the chair will entertain a motion to approve for the purpose of discussion.
So moved.
We need to read that
Oh, I apologize.
resolution.
Oh, I'm sorry. I also need to read the resolution. Thank you, Tom.
Sorry, I'm jumping, I'm
My
looking at
bad.
the latest.
I'm still thinking about hockey. Resolution 2019-06, a resolution of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, providing for the allocation of 1/10 of a mil in ad valorem taxes to the Public Safety Impact Fund for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2018, and for every year thereafter, and providing for an effective date hereof. Mayor, that's the reading of Resolution 2019-06. The reason I focused on October 1, 18 is that we normally have to wait for the Value Adjustment Board process to be completed before we make the transfer.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
A motion, we have a second.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion. You know, I have to tell you something. I wasn't sure if I was a fan of this at first. Not because of the planning part and that, just it was more structurally where it was going into the impact fund. And we've never had an issue in the past with coming up with the funds for capital improvements. Right up until the time, Harbor Palms. You know, we just took on $6 million worth of debt for Harbor Palms because we didn't do some kind of long-term planning where we're banking money. And I think this kind of approach to things is a smart one, that we should maybe look at that at some other areas in terms of capital improvement fees or something along that line that makes a lot of sense for our citizens long-term.
Mayor, I have a quick question.
Sure.
Were you on council in 06 when they abolished it? Were you involved in that, or you don't remember?
I was on council. I don't recall it, though. I can't.
Okay.
I know this is something Councilman and Mayor Beaverland has talked a long time about bringing back.
Yeah, I was just kind of curious of why they stopped it.
It might be just because of, I don't know, was it going into that fund? Was it going into that fund?
Yes.
Probably just for more flexibility.
Yeah,
on the
maybe.
Taxes.
Maybe.
That's it.
All right, since you're ready to vote, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 11 is authorize the city manager to advertise 2019-009-ITB, which is an invitation to bid for elevator installation and modernization, and this is also a new agenda item. Requesting council authority to authorize me to advertise this bid. The build-out of the reverse osmosis water treatment plant's second floor for additional office and meeting space, as well as staff sheltering in-place facilities for emergencies, is underway in accordance with the ROWTP elevator and second floor build-out project, which was placed in the 2018-19 capital improvement budget. For those of you that have been in the building, the original construction build-out had the hole in the wall and a stairway up to the second floor, but it's only now being finished. So now's the time we need to put an elevator physically in there to comply with Americans with Disabilities Act and to be able to more effectively use the space upstairs. The current elevator in City Hall, this is actually a bid for two different facilities. One is for a new elevator at RO, the other is for an elevator repair, a repair replacement in City Hall. The current elevator in City Hall is the original unit that was installed during the building construction. The system is far overdue for substantial upgrades and modernization that will bring it up to current codes, increase operating efficiencies, reduce energy consumption, and extend its current useful life. Truth be told, it does have some structural issues on the ground floor that we're trying to address. If approved, Administrative Services will advertise 2019-009-ITB seeking bid responses for both elevator projects. Obviously, that'll come back to you for award. Funding for the RO elevator and second floor build-out is available in the capital improvement budget, $250,000 in the RO budget for the new one, $60,000 in the City Hall budget facilities division for the existing one. Staff recommends approval.
I have a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion. Stairs, discussion. Sorry, I couldn't resist. No discussion. Since you're ready to vote, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes.
Mayor, that's it.
City Clerk, nothing? No? All right, you guys are good. City Council, approved tentative agenda. I want to point out a couple of things real quick. You'll notice that we moved approving the tentative agenda to the very end of the meeting. Part of the logic behind this, and this was our city clerk's idea, was that, with some of the things that we're doing, we may have already approved the tentative agenda, and then in the course of the meeting, come across something where we go, we want to discuss this pretty soon, we should put it on the tentative agenda. So instead of waiting longer and longer, at this point, if there's someone who wishes to add anything to the tentative agenda, you're able to do so, and then we can proceed with voting on the agenda as a whole or with items pulled, whichever the case might be. The second thing I want to point out about the tentative agenda, and I feel really good about the way that the city manager and the staff and the city clerk's office are working to try to be accommodating and move their deadlines further and further back up. I know it's difficult to do where they're trying to really get that full runway for the items on the tentative agenda, right? Having said that, there's like this decision we had to make, and I came out on it where if they think that they're going to have that item ready in time for the meeting, go ahead and put it in. However, if we find that we're waiting on something from a third party, for example, that does not get it done, and we've approved it on the tentative agenda, so therefore, theoretically, it should be on the next agenda meeting, but between here and there, that item doesn't show up, it's incomplete, the city manager doesn't feel like it's thorough on it, whatever the case might be, that we would then leave it on the tentative agenda until that is ready.
Leave it
okay?
hanging out there.
We'll leave it hanging out there, and then we'll vote on putting it on the next meeting in the future.
I like that.
Is everyone good with that?
I like that a
That
lot.
makes logistical sense to me.
Yeah,
More.
and so this way it also avoids, because we don't want staff to feel like, okay, oh my gosh, I missed that deadline and didn't have that, and now I got to put out another memo explaining it to everybody why it's not on the regular agenda. So that's good. So good, we have a consensus on that. All right.
Can we, at this time, Mr. Mayor, can we add items to the tentative agenda?
Would anybody like to add anything to the tentative agenda? Wow, you are really a little overachiever over there. I like it.
I think it would be a great idea to schedule a work session on the town center code, specifically what Councilmember McGee discussed about tightening the
About the pattern
architectural
book.
requirements. There's no confusion, and it's clear to developers and
Okay,
folks who own
so you'd
land.
like to add to the tentative agenda?
Under the city clerk section, schedule town, I guess you could call it a town center architectural work section?
Yeah, architectural guideline review.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be under the
Much better
CRA?
stated by Councilmember.
Be under the
McGee.
CRA?
Yep.
So you'd like to add that?
Yes, it would be.
Okay, could you restate that?
Well, one question, it's not just the CRA though, right? Because Tampa Road's not the CRA, is it?
Tampa Road isn't the CRA.
The question is, are we having the workshop specific to the pattern book and so forth for the CRA?
Okay, do we have a different one for the CRA and other areas?
Yeah, I'm sure
Oh, we
we
do?
do, don't we? Well, why don't we make it in general and we can review it all?
We can at least review what the differences are between
Yeah,
the two.
didn't want to limit it to the CRA as well.
Okay, all right, so maybe a review of the pattern book in the city's codes.
I would move to add to the tentative agenda a review of all.
Well, if there's no objection to it, I'm going to add it to the tentative agenda, and then we'll vote on the entire tentative agenda,
Okay, makes sense.
right? Because that's not been approved yet anyhow.
Yeah.
So we can do it. All right, are we in agreement on that? Very
Yes.
good.
Yes.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and add that. Is there anybody who wishes to pull anything from the tentative agenda? No? Okay, at this time, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the tentative agenda as
So
amended.
moved.
Do I have a second? All, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Thank you. Council comments, let's see. Which way did I go last time? Did I start with you last time? All right, I'm going to start on the other end. Councilmember Gannon.
I think you did.
Well, that's all right, we're going to start with her anyhow.
I keep talking. I just wanted to express to the Upper Tampa Bay Chamber, all the sponsors, all the staff, all the volunteers, everybody who had any part in Oldsmar Days, they should be commended and congratulated. It was an absolutely fabulous event. And of course, my participation in the parade and volunteering at our beer tent, the leadership beer tent, and what a blast. My family had a great time. My kids had a great time. I saw lots of residents having a great time. And I saw a lot of folks who were not residents. I mean, I can't even count how many people we saw from Michigan. Where are you from? From England, from Germany. I mean, all kinds of folks. It was an absolute success. You should all be commended. I appreciated every moment of participation as well. I just wanted to thank Al and city staff for assisting me with a resident who had concerns about traffic calming on Oakleaf. It was addressed within hours, and I really appreciate that. That's just them making me look good, making it look like I
Used to
solved
it.
the problem. And actually,
They make us look good all the time. Get
actually,
used to that.
over and over again, it's the city staff that's making us look good. And then the only other thing, I just wanted to commend you, Mr. Mayor, on your response to a complaint that we had about Oldsmar Little League, particularly one participant. There's a common misconception that we have control over certain league participation and rules and issues, and I thought that your response was very measured, well-written, and thought out, and I thought it was appropriate.
Well, thank you.
Under the circumstances. So.
I said, just anytime you have a problem, call Al. He loves to handle that. That was the second email. You didn't see that one.
Blind copy.
I'm very much looking forward to our upcoming work sessions, and I can't wait to get in the fire equipment. That's gonna be awesome. I didn't know it was so soon.
Uh-oh, that sounds like trouble.
That's all I have
Trouble,
for
trouble.
this evening. I'll stop talking.
Okay, I'm
Thank
going
you
to
so
have the vice mayor go last, so I'm going to come over to this side. I'll go with Councilmember Saraki.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. I'll go. I'm happy to go. Last week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I attended legislative days in Tallahassee. I went up there with the Suncoast League of Cities, and I was able to meet with our Senator Ed Hooper, Nick DeCiglia. I met with him, and I also met with Chris Vala and Ben Diamond. And I also had the honor to attend the dinner for the Florida League of Cities, the board meeting dinner, and it was kind of very interesting and eye-opening and a great learning experience to be with those types of leaders around our state. So I was very honored to be there and representing our city. I thought that was a well-attended 3 days, nonstop educational experience. I learned a lot, met with some crazy bills going on right now that we're concerned about, but I don't know what's going to happen. I'm glad that a lot of the current bills don't affect our city particularly. they affect other cities more, like short-term rentals. But that was a great 3 days. I just want to say I had a great time with my grandkids at Oldsmar Days, on the Ferris wheel and the slide and all of the rides. It was just a great weekend. And hats off to Jerry and the team for Oldsmar Days. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilmember?
I've got a couple things. Okay, the easiest thing is, I'm getting emails because I used to be on the School Transportation Safety Committee, and I know that Gabby has served on it, and I have served on it. So I hope that Katie would be just as excited about serving on this committee. It's like 4 times a year, and the cool thing that we did when I was on it was we made it safer for kids as far as the car seats. We raised the age of kids how long they had to be in the car seats because of all the deaths and everything else. So it was really I was really proud to do that. But I don't have the time to do it, and I'm not on the committee. So I would like to nominate.
Whose committee is it?
It's the School Transportation Safety Committee.
Pinellas County?
Yeah, it's Pinellas County.
Got it.
Yeah,
down
but you do
Clearwater.
stuff for all over the state. That's
Once a
what's cool
quarter.
about it. So if you are willing to, I'd like to nominate her to be on that committee. It meets, the 2 meetings that are coming up are June 5th, October 2nd. June 5th
We could
is the
add
first
something
one.
like that to the agenda. If it's a voting item, we can't do it under the
Oh,
comments.
it's not a consensus thing? Oh, I thought Al said that I could just bring it up. So it has to be added to the agenda?
Yeah,
I think we
Okay.
have to vote on it, yeah.
yeah, because
We
it
have
has
to
to get
vote
voted on.
Okay, so I guess, do I have to wait until the next time to do that?
Well, you have time since the meeting's not till June.
Well, I'll entertain a motion to reconsider the tentative agenda approval.
Okay, just add it.
So, motion to reconsider.
So moved.
I'll entertain a motion to reconsider.
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye, and then I make a motion, or I propose to add to the agenda item the.
I really should have
transportation safety.
suspended the rules of the day first to go back. Are you going to get me that fancy or no?
I'm not going to get you that fancy.
Okay, well then go on. Make a motion to add it to the agenda, tentative agenda.
For a nomination for the School Transportation Safety Committee meetings that meet, I think it's just 4 times a year.
Yeah,
Just the committee name.
4
is it?
times, yeah,
Okay,
once a quarter.
all right.
yeah.
We have a consensus? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the tentative agenda.
Yes, so moved.
Second. Oh,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye? Motion passes. A little sloppy, but you got it done. Thank you.
Okay, so my second thing.
Let's go back to council comments.
Okay.
We'll return to the rules of the day now.
Okay, so my second thing is the Warrior Games. I wasn't here when Colonel Harbaugh came and presented to the council about the Warrior Games, but I spoke with him today, and basically what it is it's June 21st to the 30th, and it's the United States and 5 partner countries, and 300 disabled veterans, even disabled veterans, injured troops. They have the opportunity to compete in a range of different games, volleyball, golf. I mean, they're even adding golf, and I think y'all have heard about it. So you've already heard about it. So I don't have to go into how wonderful this thing is. And Colonel Harbaugh is he is with the United States Special Operations Command Army Unit. And I would like to propose, and Al said that if I can get a council
Consensus.
consensus, that's what I was looking for.
Al's all about consensus tonight, isn't
Consensus.
he?
If I can get a council consensus.
Well, if you disagree,
to-
then I'm 0 for 2, because she keeps telling me that I'm saying things.
Well, because I'm trying to get back in the swing of everything, so I want to make sure I do
No,
everything
go right
right.
ahead.
And Al's the boss, so
That's
if he
it, that's
says,
it.
you know,
It's not his meeting though, is it? No.
okay.
He's not chair. Consensus, man.
Okay, so what I would like to do is I would like to get a consensus of the council to become, the city of Oldsmar, to become a sponsor of these games because it's just such a wonderful thing. And I would like to propose to the council that the city of Oldsmar becomes, well, it's actually not called a sponsor because they can't take sponsorships, it's called a supporter. So the city of Tampa is a supporter, there's no other cities yet that have committed to it, and they have a couple of other companies that are like providing food and stuff like that.
What
So-
kind of, is there a financial consideration, I
Yes.
would assume?
She's
Yes.
going.
Yes, so my proposal is a $2,500 support to the Department of Defense Warrior Games.
All right, I'm not going to allow that, and I'm going to tell you why, only because of the dollar amount, and perhaps, I'm in favor of it, by the way, just so you know that, but, you know, when we do other appropriations for other charities, it's part of that process that we go through, and so I don't know.
It's not a charity, though. That's the thing. There's no sponsorship levels or anything like that. It's not a charity. It's because we are such a veteran-friendly town with being a Purple Heart City, having the only Gold Star family dedicated bridge in the city, in the state of Florida. It's because we're supporters of veterans. That's why.
When is the event?
It's called the Warrior Games. and it's
It's in June?
Theater, right?
June 21st to June 30th.
Okay, well, here's what I would ask you to do. What I would ask you to do, instead of us going back and adding it to the tentative agenda, well, then it has to be approved. There's still time where you could actually request that to be added to the tentative agenda that we have not voted on. So it'll still be 2 meetings out, but it'll be within plenty of time. Is that fair enough? Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah.
I mean, it's
So I
another
guess
way to
I
get
just
it
got to
done.
get back up to speed when I thought that I could do it like this, but I guess.
I know, I'm
can't.
not trying to give you a hard time, and I'm in favor of what you're proposing, just so you
Okay,
know.
because.
But it's another way to do it. I do believe that anytime we do any kind of expenditure of any meaningful amount, that might be new, that it probably gets voted on.
Yeah, we need some time to review it.
You don't agree?
It's my job is to administer the budget because of what it was and the fact that the event would happen in June. What I shared with Linda was that I would prefer the council decide that. I did also say to her that they normally go through the budget process with our community support during a budget workshop. Because of the timing of the event, we don't have that luxury for this particular one. So I would agree with your suggestion that we put it
Add
on.
it to the tentative agenda, and we got enough time where we can
So
officially
we still
vote
have
on it.
enough time to vote
Right,
on it, and
but we
then
would
we have
vote on
enough
it.
time.
But, and I
Okay.
agree with them, because I will say this just in general, it's not relevant to what you're, but it's a good time to say it. The type of funding stuff that we do with charitable type stuff, right? Got to come through the budgeting process. I mean,
Right, and we
as
have a budget
rule.
revision coming up in June. That's why when we discussed it, we thought, he said if I could get a consensus, that then it could be added to the budget review in June and everything would be okay.
Right, but what I'm saying is, we don't need to
You're a
wait that long.
parliamentary procedure dude.
Yeah,
and so
well, what
we
I'm
need to
saying
put
is,
it
we
in
don't
the
actually have to
agenda.
wait that long. We as a council can approve an expenditure, right? And it doesn't have to, we'll make an exception because of the timing, so that it can still make the timelines that it needs, and it gets done.
Okay,
So we'll add it to the tentative agenda, and it'll all get voted on before council
Sure.
prior to the date, right? Because we're in April.
and then I
May,
can have
June.
some other information also to
There
forward
you go.
on to you, because Colonel Harbaugh was supposed to send it to me today, and I just checked my email and I haven't gotten it yet, so that would even help.
Well, we had a nice presentation.
Yeah, and they gave us a lot of flyers.
Yeah, there's a lot of
bunch
good
flyers.
information.
There's a movie, it was a
It's
cool
actually come
movie.
out twice.
Yeah, it was, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think we had a couple.
Almost
This
I'm
is
sorry, I
a
didn't- I
world
didn't-
attended event, and
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, okay, so I only have one more thing, I promise, and it is, I watched a documentary that I really think that everybody could be possibly interested in. It's called One Nation Under Stress. And basically, it is that this is the third year in a row that the United States has lost life expectancy. Our life expectancy has gone down 3 years in a row. We're the only developed nation in the world where life expectancy has gone down. They've done the study, and it is all boils down to stress being the underlying issue for three things: drug addiction and drug overdoses, cirrhosis, and suicide. And it is an epidemic. More people have died from, they're calling them diseases of despair, than the AIDS epidemic. And it goes into a lot of different, it goes into a lot of different, like we are 4.7% of the world's population, 4.7% of the entire world's population, and Americans consume or use 80 to 90% of hydrocodone and oxycodone. 80 to 90%. Because there's only 2 countries in the world that it is legal to market directly to the public pharmaceuticals, and that is the United States and New Zealand. So I'm passionate about this because it is an epidemic, and it's hitting, the demographic that it's hitting are our family, our friends. It's the middle class, and it's sustainable stress that hits them since the 60s with everything that's going on in our world and how it affects your frontal cortex, and it diminishes that, but it increases your emotions. And so I think that we all know people that have either any of those three things that I mentioned. We all know people. And so with this documentary, you can learn more on how we can help our family, our friends, ourselves by being informed on what's happening, because it kind of gets pushed under the rug. It's not anything that we talk about because, oh, it's, you know, shameful to kill yourself, or it's shameful to be, you know, it shouldn't be shamed. It should be out in the open. So it's called One Nation, and I don't mean to end, I'm not going to end on a downer. I'm going to end on a high, I promise. It's just important. It's called One Nation Under Stress. It's playing on HBO. And a neurologist, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, who's on TV sometimes, he's the one that did it. It's only an hour, but it's packed with information that I think would help everybody. And the last thing is yes, the chamber did a great job. It was so much fun. The entire weekend was so much fun. From everything. The music was wonderful. The food was wonderful. Work in the beer tent. Oh my God, I got lucky. I got to sit on a bar stool because I have a boot, because I have my ankle thing going on. So I didn't have to run back and forth like Felicia had to run back and forth, and everybody that was pouring the beer and everything, you know, they did all the work. I took the money, man. It was great. You know, I took the orders and I took the money. So it was a wonderful, wonderful event. Thank you, Chamber, and thank you to all the residents and volunteers and everybody that came out. And it's nice to hear, Jerry, that it's the most well-attended ever. So that hopefully we can build on that and have that for next year. So that's it.
Thank you. Councilmember McGee. Vice Mayor.
Let's be honest, the beer tent probably had a longer line because I wasn't there to help you guys with my quick draw. I'm very happy for you, Jerry, that it was a great event. I'm sad to have missed it. I always love that event. I also was in Tallahassee for Leadership Pinellas, visited with Chris Latvala and Senator Brandis, and attended some committee meetings. And it made me greatly appreciate our own meetings, where I feel like we actually get a lot more things done. And some of the procedures that are just required in the House and the Senate and the bills you have to have a similar bill in the Senate before something can get passed, and then everyone's going to amendment. And just sitting in these meetings, it was one of them in particular on Amendment 4, which is already passed, but now they have to figure out how do we actually implement this. And you know, having one of the senators basically trying to amend something, and then some of the other senators saying, well, I just don't know if maybe if I had more information, I could approve your amendment, but maybe, you know, at the next time. And I'm like, what is, you know, this is going to go on for months because you don't have the information before you're here at the meeting to actually vote on something. So certainly made me grateful for our local politics here and why things get done, I think, more efficiently on a local level than at the state level. And then just lastly, because I think it came to our attention today that there was, and maybe it was around the Oldsmar days, I'm not sure, but there appeared to be a car burglary and maybe a car theft over the weekend. I'm not sure how recent it was, but just a reminder to anyone in the city, you know, make sure you're keeping your car doors locked and your valuables out of sight. This in particular was near Oldsmar Park, I think. So, and that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you. And I think the one grand theft, I don't know if they count it this way, but I think it was a golf cart, actually.
Oh, well,
Yeah, so
yeah.
keep your golf cart safe. Good message. All right, I do have a couple of things. First off, I want to thank Gabby and Dan for being up in Tallahassee and representing the city. It is important. As some of you know, we have a couple of appropriation bills that have been presented by Representative Grant on our behalf. It's not sounding like the Harbor Palms one is going so well. However, it's sounding like the Douglas Road one is actually getting some traction. And so Al and I never really talked about it. We messaged and never followed up, but we're thinking about going up there next week at the suggestion of Representative Grant to try to help that along a little bit. But I actually was driving down Douglas Road. I probably shouldn't say this in front of Cindy over there. But I'm driving down and I'm holding my camera and I'm driving and the semi comes by and it's bumping and all that. And I sent that to Senator Hooper and said, you know, Ed, we need this to get through here. So, and Mary called me back, who's, as you know, his one of his political assistants, or I guess aides. She said, would you quit drive? I thought for sure that truck was gonna hit you. I'm like, see how dangerous it is? Help us out there. But anyhow, but thank you all for being up there. I mean, it really does make a difference. I know it's difficult to make the trip, but it's a different day on council these times. I mean, it really is from what it was back in 2006, the amount of involvement we all share in different things outside of our city boundaries. It makes an impact, so thank you for doing that. And of course, I want to thank the leadership team who came out, Linda, Katie, and Felicia, and Gina, who jumped in there, who's always a team player, who's on one of our city boards. I came to the conclusion watching both Katie and Linda up there working, and you know, I always knew how much fun Linda is to work with on those events, and you know, in a good crazy. Okay?
Thank you, Mayor.
No, I
appreciate
mean
that.
it. And then another good crazy joined the team, and I'm like, and I thought to myself, you know, when Gabby's back here, oh my goodness, I'm just gonna hide back there pouring beers. You know that? But it was a great event, and I do appreciate that you stayed to the end. I'll tell a little something on Sandy Grimes. She made a mistake. She sent me the time of the shift, and we're standing out there, and we're pouring beer, doing our thing, and someone looks at the flyer, and it says 7 o'clock. Well, I told everyone 6 o'clock. So I turned to Grimes, and I'm like, hey, what's the deal? She goes, I made a mistake.
Oops.
I kind of needed to stay for, I said, you know, I told everybody 6 o'clock.
Ouch.
I said, well, it's going to be you and me pouring beer here. And everybody stayed and no one complained, so that just was a good, you know, I don't know, good energy. I think everyone felt really good about helping out. And the chamber did such a great job. It's funny, I've been to so many Oldsmar days, and going way back when, you know, Gartland was there, and Sandy and I co-chaired stuff, and it was, in my opinion, the best one. And I'm standing up top there with Doug, up on the second level of the VIP thing, and we're having a blast, you know, just taking it all in. And I said, clearly it's the biggest one we've ever had. He goes, it's amazing, it is. I said, clearly it's because we have a new mayor. He said, I don't think so. So anyhow, but it was a great event, and everyone worked real hard, and so congratulations. I have a question on the new website, which I'm not sure if I commented how much I like it. It looks really good. I did notice, though, that the forms are still not available on there. Is there a timeline until which you can get them? The forms for permits and that kind of stuff? Not a form, but do we have one, do you know?
She's got all the answers.
Our assistant city manager is here to answer that question.
I'm not sure when they're going to be available. And the reason is because of the new website accessibility guidelines that were introduced in January. So in order to have a form, your PDFs have to be deemed accessible, and none of ours were. So we're going through the process of there's, I don't know, 6 staff members right now who are going through the training, but it will take us a while to be able to get all the forms in the format that's required. So that's why they are no longer there.
Got it. Well, that makes sense. That answers that question. Thank you.
But we're working on it.
We're working on it.
Expeditiously.
I'm going to ask that question every meeting until we have it. Let's see. Reminder, my water pledge.
Yep.
Let's get out there and make the pledge. Get our city really into this. I mean, it's a good thing. It's easy to do. It takes a couple minutes, and it's kind of fun. We'll get a little community pride out of there. I have to tell you, I had my moment out at Oldsmar days when I was standing upstage with Doug, and we were up there, and he's getting ready to introduce the band, and I said a few words and that kind of stuff. Doug has kept saying to me ever since the election's been over and getting sworn in, he was saying to me, have you had your moment yet? I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, I had that moment when I was driving, not long, that the next day after being sworn in, where I thought to myself, wow, I'm mayor of this great town. How amazing is that? And I kept saying, no, I haven't had that moment yet. I feel bad, almost guilty in a way. And he asked me, hey, call me when you have the moment. And I'm like, I'll call you when I have, text me at least. I'm like, okay. So we're standing on the stage and I'm looking out there Saturday night and people just having a great time. And, you know, all of us, I know Gabby was out of town, but all of us had made it out there multiple times, you know, and I had that moment. And I'm like, wow, I am so proud to be the mayor of this city. It's amazing. And I tapped him on the shoulder. I said, I'm having that moment now. It was pretty cool. It was a cool moment. Anyhow, let's not get too sappy there. All right. I'm very excited about the planning session coming up. I think we're going to get a lot of good things done. I really appreciate the hard work that Felicia's put into it and Al's put in. We've met a couple times on it. I think we're going to really move the ball forward and get a game plan together that we can all really participate in and feel good. With that being said, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
So moved, seconded by the vice mayor. Any discussion? There's not any. You can't have it on that motion. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. We are out of here.
Gabby, I missed you. I was at the leader.